Hello and welcome to Gupshup's webinar on how to create a chatbot on all messaging platforms. My name is Sohan Maheshwar and I lead developer relations at Gupshup. First, a little bit about bots. The recent spate of announcements and media stories from industry-leading tech companies such as Microsoft and Facebook and many major brands indicates that bots aren't just a fad and that they are here to stay. These bots can do anything from provide weather and traffic updates, take pizza orders, book a cab, or even tell you a joke, all by interacting directly with the people who want to get them. We'll talk about what exactly a chatbot is, about the chatbot ecosystem, and we'll also show you a quick demo on getting started with your first cross-platform chatbot. Do note that we'll send out a recording of the webinar. Also, the floor is open, so feel free to ask questions at any point of time, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. Without further ado, here's my co-presenter Birut Sheth, the CEO of Gupshup. Yeah, Birut, go ahead.
Okay. So hi everyone. I guess good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on which time zone you're dialing in from. I'm here in the Bay Area. It's a little cloudy. Hopefully, it'll get sunnier later in the day. Anyway, it's super exciting to be talking about bots. I think it's a big, there's something very interesting, very exciting going on. So, before we dive into the tactical things of, okay, how do you build a bot and, and so on, I think it's really important to appreciate what's going on out there. Why is it important? Is this the sort of trend of the month, or is this a fad that's just going to die out soon, or is this something more tangible, something more substantial? And I think to put it in context, you kind of have to look back and see, okay, what's happening and why is it happening? So let me just share a little bit of context here. Okay, and there's this first slide that I find very useful. It's a little dense, so just give me a minute, I'll take you through it. It's a lot simpler than it looks. But what I'm going to do here is sort of take you through the quick history of the personal computing industry. If we sort of go back and look at the last 40, 50 years of since the PC was born, I think you can see that there have been a few major paradigms, about 3 paradigms in the way in which we primarily use computers, right? Right in the early days, so let's say after the PC was born in the mid 80s, the primary metaphor was the desktop, right? You bought a computer, it came with a desktop operating system, and then you customize that computer by downloading different clients. It could be a word processor or a presentation software or a game that you download onto your computer, and then you'd go your merry way using the computer, right? And then in the mid 90s, we switched the major paradigm switched, right? And we went to a browser-based paradigm. So the browser was the new platform, and then the thin client server-side development approach. And once you had the browser, you could go visit different websites. You could go visit an e-commerce website or a gaming website or what have you. That's how you personalized your experience, right? So the browser was the new platform, and the website was the new application, if you will. And then about a decade later, we had another sort of major paradigm shift, right, where we went to the small screen. The smartphone and the smartphone OS became the new platform, right, iOS and Android. And then there were these mobile apps that you could download from app stores, which allowed you to customize your personal computing experience, right? And each of these paradigm shifts were huge. They were transformational, right? So the web added connectivity, right, to the PC paradigm, and the mobile framework sort of made it much more global, much more ubiquitous. We went from maybe 1 or 2 billion web users to about 5 or 6 billion users worldwide using smartphones, right? So big shift. Another big thing is that each of these paradigm shifts created or unleashed sort of massive economic value, right? Maybe, I don't know, $1 trillion worth of economic value. If you think in the web, companies like Google, Yahoo, Amazon, eBay, and so on didn't exist before the web, and sort of created such new businesses. Similarly, when we went to the smartphone and app era, Instagram and Snapchat and WhatsApp and WeChat, Line, Kakao. I mean, these things just didn't exist until after the app ecosystem happened, right? So at this point in time, we find ourselves on the verge of yet another major paradigm shift, right? And that's around messaging. The messaging app becomes the new platform, and a software program that you can chat with, and we're calling it a bot. But messaging and bots sort of are the new paradigm. And why is this happening now? Variety of reasons. I think the earlier paradigm, the smartphone and app paradigm, is getting sort of saturated, if you will. We're getting apped out, if I may. While there are millions of apps, most of us use no more than a dozen apps every day. People are simply not downloading as many new apps as one would like, right? The cost of from a developer standpoint, the cost of developing an app with its native screens is really high. The cost of upgrading is very high as well because of the download barrier, right? You need the user to download the app, which is a lot of work. And then, just the cost of updating it and so on is very high. Even from the consumer standpoint, the download requires advanced planning, initial thought, so that you have the app when you need it with you. So meanwhile, we've seen that the number one app by far worldwide is the messaging app. People are spending, they're intensely engaged dozens of times a day. They're opening the messaging app and using it. So that's, so that begs the question: what if you could keep all users right inside the messaging app and sort of bring the whole internet in there, right? What if you could shop and order pizza and book a taxi and do your banking and trading or whatever you need to do right within the messaging app? It offers numerous advantages, right? Firstly, the consumer is already there, so they're using it, so the adoption is going to be huge. And secondly, it brings in server-side development. We sort of move from this client-side approach that we have with mobile apps to server-side development with bots, right? And frankly, if you think about it, when Steve Jobs came up with the App Store, you'd have thought that we knew server-side development was better. Why did we go down with the app framework? And I think the reality is mobile networks were not as good, right? When networks are not good, we tend to do client-side development. But when networks are better, it makes just more sense, technical and economic sense, to do server-side development. So finally, we find ourselves at this point in time where networks are better, messaging apps are popular, and messaging apps are opening up APIs, right? That's the other big deal. They're opening up APIs that allows all of this to happen. So I think if you put it in this context, this change, this paradigm shift is a big deal, and it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense for consumers, for developers, for the whole ecosystem. And I believe this is going to usher in some massive innovation and opportunities over the next decade or so. And I'm just going to skip this. So like I mentioned earlier, right? Why is this picking up so much interest and so much buzz right now? It's because all of these messaging platforms are opening up APIs. They've either already opened up APIs or are about to open up soon. I think the one major app that's still pending is WhatsApp, but they have announced they're going to do something soon, and we'll see what it is. So certainly, all of this coming together at a very interesting point in time. So if I go further, okay, so if you buy the fact that this is a major paradigm shift and it's great for consumers, great for developers, so then it begs the question, okay, who's going to have to build a bot, right? And if you think about it, I think the analogous question is, who needs to build a website or who needs to build an app? And the answer is pretty much everyone, right? Every business, every brand, whether it's a large enterprise or a startup, they have to, I mean, if you're in the tech space, you kind of have to have a website. And for the most part, you need to have an app. Well, I think the bot is going to be about the same thing. Literally everybody is going to need to have bots because that's where the consumers are, right? They expect to see you inside the messaging app, and it requires you, businesses will need to be there as well. Else, they lose out to the competition. Consumers sort of will, that whenever these paradigm shifts happen, consumer behavior changes ever so slightly, and then once they start expect to see all the brands and consumers in one, all the brands and businesses in one place, then they just kind of stick to that habit and will oftentimes switch brands and switch businesses they're working with for convenience and for ease of use, right? So I think in the same vein, so these are a handful of brands and businesses that were announced at the F8 conference, but since then there are many, many more businesses and many more companies, that have either already launched bots or are working actively on developing bots and launching them out there. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time for the entire ecosystem. I think if you're a brand or a business, this gives you another channel to engage users that's much more powerful, right? You can bypass the download barrier. You can engage with users much more actively, dozens of times a day, depending on the use case, right? So it gives you a very very engaging and convenient user channel. And from a consumer standpoint, the ease of use is huge. I think developers are getting excited, entrepreneurs too, and therefore the investors are inevitably following in as well. There's a bit of a media frenzy going on too. But I think in a way, this is all good. While there will inevitably be some hype and some excessive sort of projection and forecasting, I think there's something substantial and real that's going on. And I think it's important for developers, entrepreneurs, to be doing these things. And we have, there's a ton of excitement at the meetups, at least here in the Valley. There's a lot of engagement, a lot of interest, and a lot of activity going on. Okay, so I think if you sort of agree with what I've said, which is, this is a major paradigm shift. We're moving to messaging and bots, and every business and every brand is going to build it. Then sort of, that brings us to the question of, okay, what does Gupshup do, right? And what we do, as this phenomena happen, if you're going to need to build millions of bots, the ecosystem needs tools that makes it easy to build bots, right? Because it takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of repetitive work, and there's common things that different bot developers have to do. So Gupshup is the leading bot building platform, right? It's sort of the easiest and fastest way to build bots. Now, before I share what we're doing, I just want to share a little bit of context of about Gupshup. We've been working on messaging and bots for a long time. Long before it became fashionable or trendy recently. We've been in the messaging space for several years. In fact, messaging in the feature phone era meant SMS messaging, and we are one of the largest sort of cloud APIs, cloud-based platforms for SMS messaging. We've been doing that for like 6-7 years. We do about 4 billion messages a month, mainly in Asia. And then as IP messaging took off, clearly we saw the rise of many consumer messaging apps, but most of these apps were closed until very recently. So about 2 years ago, we in fact launched our own messaging app called Team Chat. And to this day, I think it's one of the most advanced messaging apps still, because we pioneered this concept of structured messages. We call them smart messages right inside the message, right? So you could have structured fields and interactive elements, buttons and form fields and so on, right in the message, so that you don't need to stay with plain text alone. You could actually have structured interactions right within the message itself. And we launched that 2 years ago, and it was all validated when Facebook a few weeks ago said they also agree that it's not going to be all just plain text. It's going to be a hybrid of structured and text interactions as well. So again, so we launched that capability 2 years ago, and in fact, we had APIs for users to build bots. Now, we didn't exactly call it bots at that time. These were sort of messaging workflow automation and terms like that. But we've been working on that for a while, right? So in the process, we've actually built and deployed hundreds of bots in production. Team Chat is being used by 2,000 plus businesses and 50,000 users worldwide. So we just acquired a lot of experience building bots and sort of went through a lot of pain, a lot of struggles in terms of how do you build it. Once it's built, how do you test it? And especially now that there are so many channels, there's so much work to be done. How do you then deploy it? Where do you host it? How do you monitor it? And bot monitoring again is more complicated. I'll sort of go through some of these things. But the point is, we just aggregated all our experience, and now that the other messaging platforms are opening up, we've created, we've sort of taken all our experience and expertise and put it into building this bot platform, right? So the short of it is things that most bot developers will need to do, all those common patterns and repetitive work. We've packaged it, embedded into a bot platform, so it gets you started very, very quickly. It automates all the plumbing, the infrastructure, if you will, so that you can get started at a very high level, right? It frees the developer to focus on just their business workflow rather than having to reinvent the wheel every time. So let me dig a little deeper, and I'll go through the next few slides very quickly because we're actually going to show you a demo of these things. I want to send some context, right? So firstly, the bot platform offers tools sort of for the entire bot lifecycle, right? Now, the bot lifecycle has multiple stages. I mean, we show just a few on the slide, but you sort of have to start with speccing a bot and then scripting a bot, right? Because it's a conversational interface. Then developing the bot, testing the bot, right? Not just in an emulator, but testing it on all the channels that you intend to deploy it to. After you've tested it, then you need to actually host the bot somewhere. You need to publish it in each of the channels, right? There's a lot of work there. Monitoring a bot is a little more complicated because it's not just a heartbeat monitor that the system is up or down, but also is it responsive to the specific messages that the users might request, right? So monitoring sort of bot uptime is also more complicated. And then analytics, right? Who's using the bot? What are they doing with it? Search and discovery of bot as well. Where do you promote it? How do you get users to use it, and so on. So for this entire sort of end-to-end bot lifecycle, we've developed tools and sort of streamlined it. That will show to you in just a second, right? The other thing I should mention is cross-platform APIs, right? You can write once, run anywhere, right? If a developer is building bots individually for each channel, I think that's just way too much effort, and it's going to come back and bite them sort of later on because once you build a bot, you're also going to constantly upgrade it because in server-side development, your cycles are a lot shorter. So let's say if you're upgrading the bot every week and you have a dozen bots to manage, I mean, that just leads to a lot of challenges. And it's just way too expensive. So what we've done is provided simple cross-platform API. You write once, it works on every channel everywhere, right? There's a bot builder tool. I think we're going to dive into this immediately after this in a minute. So I'm just going to skip this part. But the essence is you can very quickly just focus on your bot process and workflow rather than worrying about the plumbing which you get out of the box. There are some analytics that are available automatically built in. Some configuration capabilities, message logs, so you can analyze what's going on. Publishing the bot, right? This is connecting. Once you develop the bot, you need to connect it to its identity on each of the channels. So this is one place where you can just just quickly integrate it and get going, and analytics as well. So let me just pause here. I think we'll switch to a quick demo about the product, and in fact, you'll see we'll create a bot literally in a few minutes, and you'll get a good sense of it. So, Sohan, over to you.
Thanks, Peru. Um, yeah, so I'm just going to show you a quick demo of how you can create a chatbot using Gupshup. I'm on the Gupshup website now. So this is our homepage. It's called gupshup.io. You log in using a GitHub login, and I'm going to click on the My Bots button to actually create a bot. Now the thing is, we have a bot builder built into our website, right? And usually, before creating a bot, you would have to set up your developer environment, install a bunch of developer libraries, then set up your server space. We have kind of taken all that pain and headache away from you by having this bot builder tool. So essentially, it kind of automates the grunt work and hides the plumbing from for the user. So I'm going to create, like, say, webinar bot, right? And let me show you the interface. Yeah, so this is the interface. It comes with some templatized code that you see here, which has some of the methods that are commonly used. Again, we have pre-installed a bunch of libraries, and we host our own code as well, and we allow you to host your own bot as well, so you don't have to worry about server space and stuff like that. Now, we also have a small emulator here that you can test, that you can use to test out the conversational aspects of your bot. And yeah, let's dive right in. So first, I mean, there are a couple of functions here, and I'll take you through each of them. First, there's a message handler function that you see here. So any message that your bot receives, whether it's on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Line, Skype, whatever, will be passed using this particular method, right? So we have a parameter called event, and event.message actually gives us what message is incoming. For example, if someone says hi, I can actually respond with the hello. Yeah. So simple bot. If someone says hi to your bot, you respond with a very polite hello, for example, and we're going to test out an emulator here. Hi and hello. Right. So I mean, this is how the most basic possible conversation that your bot can probably have. Now, maybe you want to give your bot some character, right? So assuming someone pings with a hello to your bot, you can respond with a how are you, and you can even get the username. Yeah. So I'm going to try it out here. I say hello to my bot. How are you, so on my show? So on my show is my GitHub name, and that's it, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to deploy this bot onto a server by just clicking this one button. What this means is we have deployed it, and we have this concept called a proxy bot. A proxy bot, and we have a proxy bot on Telegram, on Facebook Messenger, on Slack, and all the messaging apps out there. A proxy bot essentially allows you to test your app, or test your bot rather, in the messaging app without actually deploying it. And let me just show it to you. Here's the Gupshup proxy bot. I've just created a bot called webinar bot. So I'm going to say proxy webinar bot. So essentially what happens is, yeah, bot map successfully. So essentially what happens is the Gupshup proxy bot is going to act like the bot that you have just created. This is done so that you as a developer can really test out your bot before pushing it out into a production environment. For instance, we said hi in our bot to get a, yeah, just wait for the response. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, the proxy bot allows you to test out the bot in a sort of production environment. I'm just going to deploy it again in case it's not deployed. Yeah, I'm going to say proxy webinar bot. Okay, okay, I'm going to say hi. Yeah, and there we go. Telegram is acting slightly slow today. Hello will give you a response that says how are you, followed by my username on Telegram, which is this. So essentially, that's how you use your proxy bot to really test out your bot. Yeah, so this is pretty much how you can start off by creating a simple bot. Of course, the bot that you're creating right now is a completely stateless bot. For that, we have something called a function called event handler. So event handler is a method or a function that runs every time some event happens associated with your bot. For instance, your bot is added to a group, or your bot is pinged. Um, we also just so that your bot can maintain state, we have two particular concepts. One is called bot level data, and we have something called room level data. Essentially, what the bot does is it remembers state of each user, and and you can use that to further your interactions or to make your interactions really better with your user. Of course, right now the bot doesn't do too much, and we're guessing most bots here will actually have, a HTTP get and put calls. So we have a method for that as well. It's called HTTP response handler. So essentially, you can make a HTTP API call, and any response from that will be handled within this method. So let's try out with something like JSON. Okay, this is down right now. So this is what you see right here is the RSS feed for TechCrunch. So let's maybe try parsing that. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say if your bot says TechCrunch, we will make a simple HTTP call. Yeah, so simple HTTP call to the RSS feed of TechCrunch. Yeah. So essentially, what happens is if some user types out TechCrunch to your bot, it's going to make a get call to this particular URL, right? And we're going to handle it in this method. Yeah. So the parameter event here is what you'll use to really get what response the HTTP sends back. So event dot get response will get you the response. So we're going to pass it maybe response JSON. Sorry. Yeah. And now we're going to do some simple JSON parsing to really display the results out. Okay. Yeah, we will deploy this right now. Okay. We're going to add some more JSON parsing right here. Okay, that should do. Okay, and now we're going to send response, which is basically the story, the title, along with the link to the story. Uh, okay, I'm going to deploy this and hopefully this works. Yeah. So typing TechCrunch to the bot. Yeah. It sent me the link. So basically we chose one link, so it sent me the latest link from TechCrunch with the title and the link. So that is how we created a simple sort of RSS bot using this. Of course, so this is just, I mean, the example I showed you was deploying it to a test bot on Telegram. Gupshup allows you to publish it to various channels as well. For instance, so these are the channels we support right now: Slack, Twitter, HipChat, Facebook Messenger, Twilio, Telegram and Kick. So, I mean, you can absolutely publish it to any of these channels, but I'm going to show you how you can publish it to Telegram. Yeah. So we need a token and a Telegram bot that you can create on Telegram. So I'm going to Telegram and just look for bot father. It's a sort of universal bot that each Telegram user has. And I'm going to create a bot with the command new bot. First, yeah. I'm going to call it bot, webinar test bot. Yeah. So now what Telegram does is it gives you a token to access it and a URL from which you can access your bot, right? This is the URL through which you can access your bot. I'm just going to paste the token here and the name for the bot, which is webinar test bot. I'm going to copy that and submit it. So essentially what Gupshup does is it uses the Telegram APIs and it publishes your bot to Telegram. Now your bot on Telegram is live. Hello. There we go. This is the bot that we've just written. It's already live on Telegram. You can check it out. Yeah. So that was a basic demo of how you can create and publish and deploy a bot onto Telegram. We can open the floor to questions if anyone has some. I can see a few questions coming up. Okay. I'll transfer this over to Birut to answer some of the questions.
Yeah, hi. So there's a question about provision API for strong NLP. So I think what we found is there are many different. So firstly, the bot platform that we have, it doesn't have any NLP capabilities in and of itself, right? But we can seamlessly and easily integrate with the many NLP tools out there, right? You have bit.ai, Lewis.ai, even API.ai, and many others, OpenNLP, and so on. And what we found is, once you get into NLP, it gets very, very domain specific, and different people want to do very different things. Which sort of, as part of the platform, it's hard to do a common thing. So on our roadmap, we'll sort of include something by default. But today, we've built bots that use the NLP capabilities of Wit.ai or any of these other services. And it's, like Sohan just showed you, there's an HTTP call, right? So you can make a web service call to the NLP service. You get the entity and the intent back from the NLP service. So you can connect the bot to any NLP service out there. But I think going forward, we'll make it even easier. We'll make it sort of we'll integrate it into the platform. That's clearly that's on our roadmap as well. Okay, so there's how someone would use AI to learn. So there's a question here which says, awesome demo. Could you please share how someone would use AI or learn about user preferences from the Facebook Graph API and bring more relevant results like you did for TechCrunch? I think, so the answer there is, look, there are the Facebook Graph API and there are many other APIs, right? They're all available. And I think the intent of the bot or this bot demo here is sort of not to take you through all those other things, but absolutely. I think the real power is, you create these bots and you integrate or connect these bots to other services out there. It may be the Facebook Graph API, it may be, could be completely other APIs as well. And that makes the bot richer and smarter, right? I think what we've tried to do with this bot platform is to automate the plumbing, right? So whether you have an intelligent bot or not an intelligent bot or other capabilities as well, it's really important that you still need to take care of the hosting, the publishing, the monitoring, the tracking, and so on and so forth. I'm going to use this question to make another point as well around AI, right? There's a lot of interest around bots and intelligence and NLP and AI and so on. And I just want to make a few important points that you guys should all remember, right? Which is, how intelligent should a bot be? Okay, And if you think of bots, going back to my earlier presentation, if you think of bots as the latest version or the latest reincarnation of a desktop client or a website or an app, and now we have bots, we don't talk about intelligent websites, right? We don't talk about intelligent apps. So, I don't think we should automatically or necessarily talk about intelligent bots, right? And, the word itself is a bit misleading, right? Bot comes from robot, so we automatically assume intelligence. But the reality is a lot of bots may actually be very simple, very straightforward, and in fact may have no AI at all, right? Or even NLP. It could be simple keyword response trigger. And I think the point I'm making is even though websites and apps were dumb or rather not intelligent, they still created so much economic value, right? And simply the fact that bots are the next paradigm will also create a lot of economic value, right? So I would suggest each of you guys to think about where you need intelligence and why. In fact, I know of bot developers that have actually added NLP and rolled it back because the moment you make it smarter, you also raise the user expectation, which sometimes can lead to disappointment, right? It's like the Siri problem, ask me anything, and then when you actually ask anything, it can't always provide the answer, right? So it's really important to do it within context. In certain contexts, actually less is more, right? The example I like to use is when I'm at the pizza store or at McDonald's, I don't want to discuss the philosophy of life. I really just want combo number two. And just get it to me, right? So less is more. Sometimes if it's a transactional thing, the bot should not be excessively chatty, right? So don't automatically assume that bots have to be intelligent. However, of course, because they're conversational, you can add NLP and AI, and I think it's a bonus, but you should use it carefully. It's a double-edged sword. If you use it indiscriminately, you may actually cause more problems for yourself than doing it. So anyway, I wanted to take that sort of 2-minute detour to explain about that. There's another question here which says, do we need to build a response for every question manually, or can it also learn automatically? So no, that's a great question. And no, you don't need to build a response for each question manually. I think in the demo, we just wanted to show you how easy it was to connect different things, right? So you have, I mean, a lot of it was hidden, so it's hard to appreciate, but you can have messages coming from any channel and it comes in one place, and the developer doesn't have to think about any of that, right? The developer's only thinking about the message handler where you handle the messages, right? So it was just for the purpose of the demo. But like I said, if you connect it to an NLP service or to a learning service, that's where the automatic learning would happen, right? So I think of the bot as really a connector, right? To me, the most amazing thing about the bot is it's available inside a messaging app, right? In fact, even the way I define a bot is it's really just a software program that can send and receive messages, right? So if you think of bot in its most simplest sense, it should have the ability to send and receive and process messages. Now, what it does on the processing side is clearly up to each specific domain. If you connect it to, like I said, an NLP or learning service, it can do much more. Or if you have, if then else sort of statements, it would be a very simple keyword response bot. I think the demo was meant to be somewhat simple, but it gets you started, right? It gets you started working on sort of more advanced things very quickly. There's another question about how do you compare the Microsoft bot platform with Gupshup, and I think we've seen the Microsoft announcement, which was very interesting, and we played around with it a little bit. I think if you are a full stack Microsoft developer, where you love Visual Studio and the whole sort of Microsoft stack, I think that may be the preferred choice because you may just be familiar with it. But I think it takes you, but the other big thing is they haven't even, they said that the official release of the product was actually going to be later in the year. I think the demos were really sort of preview demos of beta products and so on. So firstly, our product is here, live, it's mature. We've been working on this for a couple of years, like I said, long before it was trendy. Secondly, it's sort of cloud-based, simple, lightweight. We don't tie you down to any stack. necessarily. While the demo we showed you was JavaScript based, so a mechanism where you can have a callback URL, so you can build it in your own language and host it in your own way as well, right? We've built it on top of AWS. So I guess as a new player, Gupshup can pick the best of breed tools and layer it on top of it, as opposed to Microsoft, where they want to tie it as much as possible into Azure, into the Visual Studio, into all their other existing tools. So I think we are different, as in I do believe Microsoft also has, while they're strong, they also have a lot of strong enemies that would not want um, the Microsoft bot platform to be as well integrated and so on, right? While as Gupshup, we're talking to all the messaging players. We've had fairly good conversations with the actual messaging platforms. We talk to them. We get sneak preview of upcoming features. So, for example, there's new features coming into Slack, into Facebook Messenger, and so on. And we work with them collaboratively and actively. So you would get the benefit of that as we add those capabilities into our platform. Okay, there's another question about, is JavaScript the primary language for bot building? Not really. I think I touched upon this earlier. JavaScript is convenient and for our cloud-based IDE platform, right? So what we've built is really a integrated development environment for building bots, right? In this IDE, we chose JavaScript because it offers a lot of flexibility and a lot of capabilities, right? We can, what we glossed over very quickly was, when you click deploy, the bot is actually being hosted somewhere, right? And you never have to monitor it, you never have to track it, and so on, because everything is automatically just being taken care of by the underlying system. And we've built a layer on top of AWS and AWS Lambda, in fact. So it's also very cost effective for you and for us to be able to do that. It's hard to do some of these things in other languages, right? So clearly, if you have a favorite language, if you have a favorite hosting service, you're a developer that has specific preferences, then of course you can build it any which way you like. And even if you build your own bot, so on the screen, if you can just go to that callback URL, I think that'll be good to show them. But there's a place where instead of sort of using the default bot, so just go into any one of these existing bots, and what we showed you was the hosted code, but you can very equally well just put in a callback URL to your own bot, right? So if you built it in your language, hosted it on your service, well, then just give us a callback URL, and then we manage everything else, right? The publishing, the analytics, the data, the tracking, the logs, and so on. So the bot platform is still useful, and I think what we found in our experience, though, I will say, is if you start building multiple bots, these are problems that you will start facing down the road. You may not see it today, but hosting a bot, monitoring a bot, tracking a bot, each of these things is really, really painful when you have multiple live production services. And the more you can do it seamlessly without having to think about it, without having to worry about it, the better off you are, right? So what we are suggesting, what we are recommending, is sort of this cloud-based IDE, which gets you free from worrying about hosting, testing, integrating, publishing, monitoring, and so on. In fact, there are a few other things that we haven't showed, but for example, we'll also have some default behaviors available in the bot, right? For example, a bot should always respond to a hello, or it should always introduce itself, right? Now, there are many best practices that we intend to bring into the platform so that you can just worry about message handling. Everything else is just available out of the box. So we continue to add. There's a very aggressive roadmap we have for the bot platform, and you'll see many more features coming in soon. Okay, there's a question here. What is your licensing model? And so I think that's a great question. This, I think I'll be honest, this space is very new, and we are just seeing how it evolves and so on. So we don't want to get too far ahead with the business model. But in any case, obviously, I'm sure you're concerned if you're going to use the platform, then how are we going to charge? So our idea is essentially to charge for it like AWS, right? Like any infrastructure platform, if you will. So it's going to be usage-based pricing. Our current thought process is it's approximately $1 per thousand API calls, but we have a freemium tier, so 100,000 API calls per month are free, right? And I think even at low volumes it's free. At very high volumes, I'm sure we'll figure out some discount pricing model and so on. So there will be volume discounts as well, but use that as a rough metric for how this scales. I think what we are really interested in right now is to create some success stories to build some successful bots. And we're working with some really sort of large companies, well-known companies as well. And then we also have the self-service platform. We have, I think literally in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had over 1,000 developers signing up very quickly, and there's about 2,000 bots built like just in the last couple of weeks. So this is ramping up very, very quickly. We're seeing a lot of interest, and it's a new paradigm. So you just have to try and experiment, and we want to make that experiment easy, make it free. And if there are some real use cases, where people want some different business models, will be very flexible as well. There's a question here about, do you see a lot of current app use cases converting into bot use cases? Or do you see new use cases emerging which are only bot specific? I think the answer to this is both, really, right? I think very loosely speaking, there'll be sort of two kinds of bots, right? One where you have bots that are just a front end to some back end services, right? So let's say if it's an e-commerce service or a taxi booking service or a pizza ordering service, well, you already have the service in the back end, and the bot is literally just a front end, another channel, if you will, right? Those are obvious. Those are absolutely going to happen, and that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will. But I think what's more interesting is you're going to have unique bot-specific use cases, emerge. It's kind of like if you go back to the web paradigm shift, or even the app paradigm shift, right? Like the earliest websites were kind of brochureware websites. They were literally, you take the content available in your brochure and you put it up on the website. Can you imagine that, right? But then obviously developers and entrepreneurs started figuring out new things you could do, and transactions and additional services and so on. So it just exploded from there. Similarly with apps, right? The earliest apps were kind of like websites, but then you saw Angry Birds and Candy Crush and some delightful app experiences, which just took it to a new level. I think similarly with bot, what's new with bots is the conversational interface, right? The messaging, the viral aspect of it. So I expect, you'd have, therapy bots and virtual friends and things like that. So I'm sure you'll see a lot of those emerging very quickly. I think the other exciting thing from a developer standpoint is, when you think about the messaging paradigm, it's incredibly powerful, right? You have, see, when the web shift happened, right, in the mid 90s, when Netscape developed the browser, the installed base of the browser was essentially zero, right? Nobody had the browser. And it took like nearly 4 or 5 years before you got to a few tens of millions of browser installs and so on. But with messaging, right, you already have a 5 billion user install base. They're all using messaging, and they're using it 100 times a day, right? The other cool thing about bots is going to need sort of zero training and zero behavior change on part of the consumer, because chatting with a bot is as simple as chatting with a friend, right? Just like you type in your friend's name from the address book, from the local address book, a bot name will show up from the global address book. So really, even my mom can use it, right? It's really simple, really straightforward, nothing complicated about it. And that's incredibly powerful, right? So you build a bot, you build a service, and if it's viral, if it's engaging, I think you'll see some of the the killer use cases will scale to, maybe billions of users much faster than you could ever do that in the app world or in the web world, because you just have, this combination of massive reach and ease of use is very, very powerful. So I think, it's too big to ignore. It's super exciting, and I think it offers a lot of opportunities.
I think that's all the time we have for questions right now. Thank you, Birut, so much for answering each one of those questions patiently. I hope we uh, answered all of your questions. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I hope it was of some use. Hope all of you all start building bots anytime soon. If you have any questions with bot building, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, or you can write into us on the support portal on our website as well. We are happy to answer your questions. We will send out a recording of the webinar to everyone. Probably send that out tomorrow. So yeah, thanks again for attending this and hope you had a good time. Cheers. Good night.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.